Were you pleased with the overall performance?
Yeah, I was pleased. With the result. I thought it was a comprehensive result in the end. I thought there were some really good parts to our performance today. Certainly first half. I felt we executed really well. I thought we were really strong at sticking with the process. We were disciplined in what we were doing. I felt we completed high, we kicked well, finished our intersets well, and I thought some of the play that we executed was excellent. Some really clinical finishing, some excellent execution and skill, and that's why we were in a position of 34-0 up at half time. So I thought some of the defensive work off the back of that was excellent as well. We really limited Oldham's go forward, and like I said, it was a very comprehensive first half. Obviously, second half, Oldham came out with a little bit of fire in their belly, as we knew they would do, and we were probably a little bit scrappy to start that second half, and then we sort of got ourselves back into the groove. Made a few changes in that second half, obviously thinking ahead for next week and resting and moving things around a bit. Again, that's no excuse for some of the level of performance we saw in the second half, because there was parts where I felt we just got a little bit loose, didn't quite finish our sets or manage our sets as well as we should have done. And credit to Oldham, I've got to give them a bit of a rap, because they've played 3 games in 7 days, and they come down here, and I just felt, for a positive for them, they certainly finished the game quite strong in that last 10 minutes, and they can take some pride away from the way they finished the game. But like I said, overall, a very pleasing performance from our end. But like I said, there's certainly areas there in that second half we could have certainly been better with.
Yeah, I thought the second half, a bit like the Workington game, the final 20 minutes, the game was won.
Yeah.
And there seemed, I don't think we've tried to say a lack of motivation, but there seemed to be a lack of go forward in the same way there had been.
Yeah, just
was it an easing off, or was it just an unconscious one? If
it's
that?
$1 million question, isn't it? One thing we spoke about at half time was to go out and to maintain those standards we delivered in the first half, and really turn the screw and be ruthless. And we just failed to do that again. And we saw it at Swinton last week, where we had a fantastic 35-minute spell that first half, and then again we sort of dropped ourselves off a little bit for 15-20 minutes, and then we got ourselves back into it. And this week was, like you said, fantastic first half, a little bit scrappy to start. We've got back into the groove, got ourselves back on the grip of the game, and then just, like I said, fell away the last sort of 15 minutes there. So again, that's a concentration thing. It's probably lack of energy at times too. I think we just kind of felt like we're going through the motions a little bit, and maybe trying to force things to overplay a little bit, and we just needed to be a little bit more disciplined with what we're doing. But at the end of the day, I don't want to take too much away, be too critical. It was a pretty comprehensive victory in the end.
Any injuries today? Sorry.
I was going to say, you're starting to think about the middle eights now.
We're starting to prepare for it. I wouldn't say we're getting too ahead of ourselves. Mathematically, we're probably one more win away from being in the 4. So we need to achieve and tick that box first. And like I said, we've reevaluated our goals, Steve. Our original goal at the start of the season was a top 4 finish, and now we've got ourselves in a position that we can finish in the top 2. We've now reevaluated and set that target. Now we're going to challenge ourselves to go for that, and because we know the added benefit of getting an extra home game in the Super 8s, well, that potentially could be the difference between going up or not. So it's a big carrot for us there to fight for now, coming towards the back end of the season. But we've got a tough 5 games to go. We've got Lee at home, and then we're away at Dewsbury. We're at home to Sheffield, and then we're away at Batley and away to Halifax. So I think the next 5 games is going to be fantastic preparation for the next stage of competition, and hopefully, we get that box ticked and make sure we're in there. And like you said, mate, we'll be excited to be part of that next stage. But we don't want to talk about it too much just yet. We just got to make sure we get there first, which I'm confident we will be able to do. And then we can then look at that. But we are starting to plan in terms of how we're training now, and starting to think about what's coming next in terms of what we're going to be facing and challenged with, so to speak. And I guess that's probably part of the things that we as coaches are doing now with our players, is challenging them to be better than some of the standards that we've delivered at times, in recent weeks, because to prepare us ready for that next step, and we're going to have to be a lot better overall and more consistently through a game. Yeah.
Were there any injuries to pick up today?
No injuries that I'm aware of. Nobody came off any injuries. No, I obviously rotated a few people, rested a few people, and managed the game time well this week. Make sure we're all ready and fit to go for next week.
You're going to be speaking about communication on the kicks after the way Elliot and John McGreevy collided.
Yeah, well, one of those things, you know, you're always taught that it's a lot easier to catch the ball when you're attacking the ball. Obviously Elliot was in that position to do. Johnny should have done is just escort the kick chase here, but obviously for whatever reason there was a lack of understanding or communication. But we'll ask the question in video review this week.
That should be Elliot's call, shouldn't it?
Should have been Elliot's ball. Yep, he may have called it.
No, I don't know, because it looked as if there was no call at all.
Well, I don't know. I haven't asked the
Right.
question. We'll ask those questions in video review this week and find out. Because again, it's like anything. You're always looking to try and fix certain areas and improve them. So that's why you do video review. You know, you cut them up. They'll ask the questions to the boys. Was there a call made? You know, who should have made that call, and get them to think about it and come up with some of those answers as well. And then if they don't get it right, you can correct them. You know what I mean? So. But that's part of the video review process.
Akipuragi was Mercurial, that's it, again.
Yeah.
He's a real talent, isn't he?
Mate, he's been a great find for us, hasn't he? And what I love about him is he's just settled right in. You know, to say that he only came and joined us a few weeks back, he's just settled right into the team, and he's you know, he's a very, very classy player, and he adds a different dynamic and a different threat out there on you know, in the halves. And yeah, I'm really pleased for him. He's enjoying his time so far in London. He's really settling into to life down here, and I think he's enjoying his rugby league, and it's evident in some of the way he's playing. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, Appy's still learning and developing as a player, and he's obviously willing to always improve, as all our players do. But you know, he certainly is adding a different dimension to our team, that's for sure.
Do you think he and Will Bartow can play together in the halves?
Well, mate, I think so. I don't see why not, and I think it'd be a fantastic partnership, those two. You know, that's not taking anything away from Scotty Leatherbarrow, who's been doing a fine job there working with Appy at the moment. But you know, Bartow and Pafarangi, it's an exciting combination. And again, it's like anything, you just got to hope that chemistry works, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to perhaps see that at the back end of this season, if Will can recover in time. But certainly we'll be looking forward to seeing it next season.
What's the long-term injury list looking like?
Well, we've only got, obviously Nathan Stapleton was out for the season, so there was that one. We've obviously got Will Bartow, who's scheduled to be back at some point in the middle eights. And then we've also got Matt Davis, who's out for the season. So that's our long-term at the moment. Joe Keys is back. He played with London Scholars today. Oh, right. He had his first game back. So he had his first full week of training this week. So he's got a dual register for London Scholars today to get a match under his belt.
They won 22-6 in very wet conditions.
Fantastic. Great result again for the London club. Good to see.
Isn't it great that London Rugby League is on the up? Both teams
it is good.
Having seasons better than most of the experts predicted.
No, it's great. And I made that point in one of my programs recently about the fact that, you know, it's great to see how, even us as the Broncos, you know, we're always renowned for loaning players in, dual registered players in. You know, and this year we haven't had to do that. You know, we haven't loaned anybody in, we haven't dual registered anybody in. We've actually gone the other way, loaning and dual registered people out. You know what I mean? Which for me, and again supporting those other southern clubs, you know, we're supporting London Scholars are our partnership club that we work very closely with, but we're also trying to support Hamill, Oxford as well where we can. So we've had some of our academy guys go out on dual reg as well at times during the season when they haven't had games to help with their development. So I think it's just fantastic for us as a club that we can now support, which I believe we should do as the premier club down the south. We should be supporting those others around us, and it's great to see that we have got players going down to Scholars, Hamill, Oxford, and helping all three of those teams in terms of them moving forward and achieving results. And it's great to see, like you say, the London Scholars now being, you know, more than competitive and a real opportunity of making the playoffs this season in League One. So it's exciting. It's great for rugby league down south, and it's great for the Broncos as well.
Just wondering, do you think London Scholars making their top 8 is a greater achievement than the Broncos making the top 4?
Oh, that's
a tough question.
That's a tough question.
As someone who follows both teams very, very closely, and have seen more defeats than anybody else over the years.
Yeah, I think for me it's probably on equal par, isn't it? You know, at the end of the day, they probably had a goal at the start of the season to make the playoffs, and if they achieved that box, well done. We had the goal of making the top 4 if we achieved that. And well done to both teams. So to say one's better than the other,
fair enough.
I think it's, you know, it's relevant to each organisation. You know, I mean, it's a massive result for them if they achieve that. Massive result for us if we achieve what we set out to achieve. Yeah.